West Yorkshire, home to nearly 2.5 million people, 70% of which have experienced a traumatic event during their lifetime. In this mini-series, we'll be taking a deep dive into the West Yorkshire Adversity, Trauma and Resilience programme, jointly delivered by the West Yorkshire Health and Care Partnership and the West Yorkshire Violence Reduction Partnership. The programme aims to prevent harm and improve the well-being of the population. The programme has been running for 4 years, but where did it all begin?
So the West Yorkshire Adversity, Trauma and Resilience journey started in 2020. Many people thought that we were probably daft trying to create such a movement in the middle of a pandemic. But actually it was the right time to do it. People were probably suffering trauma that have never experienced adversity before, people that were already experiencing adversity. It was even worse. Health inequalities were increasing, and obviously since then, and the impact of the pandemic, we're still seeing the cost of that on people's health and their well-being and the way that they're able to live their lives.
In 2020, following the safeguarding review that Neve did, of 5 men who lived street-based lives who died in a short period of time, I think that was the real impetus for us.
So the strategy in Bradford was launched in March 21, which is a couple of years ago now, but what was really exciting at the time was the fact that when we launched with it, we said that it was a live document, a live piece of work which was subject to change, which was brilliant for us because it meant that we were really going to be responsive to what was being said as a system.
And that lended itself to the resilience documentary being showed in Bradford and promoting that discussion. So it wasn't just about showing it, it was about the conversation that came with it. So our key leaders, frontline staff, and trying to bring that energy together. But Better Start Bradford were central to that at that time, and talking at what was I think it was Transformation and Innovation Group that was the structure at that time within Bradford with key partners. And like I say, that momentum to really develop it further and bring that it was an integrated approach.
We were able to appoint an adversity, trauma and resilience lead to give it that extra focus. It was held originally in a children and young people public health team that clearly have got a massive remit. So to be able to give it the kind of, the time it deserved really, we were felt really, really lucky for. And that's where then you can start to think about what is it that tell the story.
The ATR programme is working with organisations in all sectors to teach the importance of trauma-informed practice.
We also know that trauma and adversity, the root causes and key drivers of violence, particularly for our young people and their families and their peers and their communities. So it makes perfect sense why we do this together really, because it's so important for both our organisations and the wider partnership and the wider system around us in West Yorkshire.
We're also a very diverse place, 150 languages spoken here. We're a place that continues to change, which for me is a fantastic thing. But many of the people who are newly arrived here have been through very difficult experiences, traumatic experiences, fleeing war or terror or persecution. So there's all sorts of reasons why people have had very difficult experiences, particularly children, early childhood experiences, which are really difficult. Now, what we know is that has an impact on the psychological and physiological development and well-being of people, in childhood, but throughout the life course. My job is to enable people to live their best lives in this place. So tackling that means growing our economy, meaning people aren't scrabbling in the margins of poverty, making sure there's decent housing. But actually, we've also got to address that very deep impact that the experience of adversity has right now.
What I mean by trauma-informed and a responsive system is a system that works together to understand that the people that we meet, either professionally or personally, have got a history, have got a backstory. And that backstory might be drug and alcohol misuse. It might be one of many traumas from childhood. It might be any number of things. And we have to take into account the whole person in order to be able to respond effectively and meet that person's needs.
The ATR programme is an amazing extension of learning for practitioners, professionals and people entering the field as well, students at the university that will look to develop after their courses, could take part in the ATR. It provides a really rigorous, sound professional network to further professional practice and to further trauma-informed thinking, as a community, and share that understanding with each other.
And what that means is that we are working with students who are coming in from backgrounds and experiences that might fall under the remit of trauma-informed practice. So we have to be a trauma-informed institution to be able to teach in that context as well. The unique thing about Leeds Trinity is it's a very applied university. So what we do here is we are research-driven, but we take what we find in the research and we're able to apply it. So there are a number of courses, including the one that Richard delivers, that enables practitioners to go out and practice what they're learning in theory. And that's incredibly important because for me, trauma-informed practice isn't what you know, it's also what you do. So we need to be able to get those two things right. If you're trauma-informed, you will understand the research, the literature behind it, but then most importantly, you can't be trauma-informed unless you're delivering it in practice. So I think we as a university have got the combination of those two things right, and I think that's why we really enhance the partnership.
So the West Yorkshire programme is all sectors working together. We can't do this unless every sector works together, and that includes the criminal justice sector that Kelly leads on.
So it's really important that we work with our criminal justice partners, obviously particularly because of the background I come from in the Violence Reduction Partnership. But we know that we've got a lot of people moving through our criminal justice system who carry that trauma, who have trauma, they've faced adversity in their life. So we're doing lots of work in prisons across West Yorkshire. We've provided foundation training for out-of-response police officers because they're often the first person that you might see following an incident. We're doing some specific work as well with liaison and diversion service in West Yorkshire. And we're wanting to grow that and expand that and really work across all the partners across the local criminal justice system as well within West Yorkshire. There are huge links to policing and crime and serious violence. Many people who have serious and complex needs have had many traumas in their lives. And we need to understand that trauma can lead to people being exploited. It can lead to people making choices that are not in their best interests and definitely not in the interests of their family and wider communities. And if we can get it right at the very start of someone's journey, then hopefully we can prevent people entering the criminal justice system, becoming vulnerable to exploitation, being harmed, and sometimes tragically going on to harm others.
It's really important actually to work as a whole system on trauma. And working at the scale of West Yorkshire means we can draw on a huge asset base and different perspectives, experiences, insights, understanding and practice. And I was delighted to accept the opportunity to chair the first partnership working around trauma-informed practice. I particularly enjoyed bringing people together across organisational, institutional boundaries, developing common understandings and language, sharing best practice, celebrating best practice, building capacity and capability, trying things out, trying fast and failings, and I'm really into that, but also learning from what's going really well and seeking to replicate it.
We've also got to be open to learning from each other, sharing great practice, and ultimately always putting the needs of the people we're serving first.
Now we can hear from some senior leaders on their experiences of being involved with the Adversity, Trauma and Resilience programme.
As a senior leader in West Yorkshire, being a trauma-informed system is important because as a GP, I see on a regular basis people presenting with physical symptoms when in fact it's due to the trauma that people have seen across in their lifetime. So being a trauma-informed system really embeds our principles of early help and looking to reduce those inequalities that we see across West Yorkshire. And so it's important that myself individually as a clinician and that health and care workers and others are trauma-informed so that we recognise these symptoms and features that people present with in a whole variety of different scenarios. I've just mentioned general practice, so that we can actually make sure that they get the right care and are referred to the right people so they can have the right conversations and get the right treatment and management.
We know we have huge inequalities in West Yorkshire. We have ethnic diversity, we have diversity of culture, and we have this, what we call the divide between the most affluent and most deprived communities. And there is a difference in how long people live and how well they live based on who they are, where they live, how much they earn. And I think trauma-informed care is probably the missed piece of this jigsaw. And as a leader and as a clinician, it gives you that perspective to better understand the causes of health inequalities.
As health and care workers, wherever you are in the West Yorkshire system, we need to recognise that trauma is prevalent in our communities and in our society. So if we begin there, we can then work with compassion and understanding. It's all we want to do working in healthcare.
It's really important as a senior leader in West Yorkshire that we are all trauma informed, because I don't think at any point before now in my career in public services have we seen the level of cumulative impact of poverty, of multiple and complex need in our communities, the cost of living and austerity, all leading to creating circumstances where it's very difficult for people to live healthy and good lives. And as public services where our resources are really stretched, we have to collaborate and recognise that people don't come with a single issue. They come with multiple and complex needs, and they come with opportunities for us to support them to grow and live good and larger lives. But we can only do that together, and we can only do it with a trauma-informed evidence base because we know it works. And I was part of the Dame Carol Black review on drug strategy, which has led to investment, which is really welcome, and her absolute key defining learning from that, from all of us around the country, and it's really true, and the evidence shows in West Yorkshire, as much as anywhere else, that actually a trauma experience in people's lives shape their opportunities, shape sometimes how services respond to them, and we need to train staff, we need to empower staff, and we need to empower people, recognising that trauma exists, but actually we can overcome it together.
That's all for part 1 of this mini-series looking at the West Yorkshire Adversity, Trauma and Resilience programme. In part 2, we'll hear about how the programme supports individuals and communities.